Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to today's sharing of Harmonize2Energize. My name is Terry Matthews. I've practiced JIN SHIN JYUTSU, taught JIN SHIN JYUTSU for well over 30 years, and I'm also a student of many other modalities. Welcome to anyone who's brand new today. Briefly, JIN SHIN JYUTSU is an art of harmonizing life energy, sometimes called chi or ki, as it moves or not congruently through the body. And what we do in JIN SHIN JYUTSU, we use palms of our hands, back of our hands, fingertips, thumbs, to place on what we call safety energy locks on the body, and there's 26 of them left and right of our spines, 3 in the arms. And by placing the palms or back hands, etc., on these safety energy locks, we're able to regulate the movement of this energy as it goes through organ function pathways. These energy locks are the diameter of your individual palm of your hand. So whatever that is the size with which you can place your hands within that area. Of course, the map is not the territory. There's many levels to JIN SHIN JYUTSU. We talk in terms of soul, mind, and body, or bust line, waistline, and hip line. And these subdivisions serve to help us segment how energy affects those different areas of our being. And there's many equations, relationships with how energy above the waist can affect energy below the waist, etc., etc. And really, JIN SHIN JYUTSU is a study, you could say, of relationship, how things relate to one another in the body energy field. And when we gather together here in a group, we increase that energy field. And it allows us to connect to everybody else's energy field, everybody else's energy locks, and it helps us to harmonize all together in a wonderful spiral or circle of life. Energy as it moves through our body, with the understanding that JIN SHIN JYUTSU brings, is it moves in a spiral, a clockwise spiral. And at the subtlest level, the less dense level, it moves in a clockwise spiral. The energy then moves from what we would call heaven, the head, to earth, the feet, and then back up from the feet to the head. It moves through 3 distinct junctions, or at least Mary, who was the master of Jinjitsu to the West, from Japan in the 1970s, would talk about how the energy moves from safety energy lock number 4, which is the occiput level, through safety energy lock 15, which is the hip line level in the groin, to safety energy lock 7, which is the big toes, and then back up again from the 7 through the 15 and the 2, which is on the hip line, back up to safety energy lock 4. She would say from man's best friend to man's best friend, and that is dog to God, and the relationship there is the 4th letter of the alphabet. O is the 15th, G is the 7th. I think you get my drift. And so we're given this opportunity to harmonize, rejuvenate ourselves and indeed others. So JIN SHIN JYUTSU can be practiced by yourself, on yourself. And by the way, if you don't have hands, or there are issues with holding safety energy locks because of pain, you can just have the intention that you're holding the energy lock. And because the thinking processes govern largely how our life unfolds, we can have the intention to move the energy. But we like to connect to our body. We like to show ourselves how we can connect. And we do it in this understanding of compassion, which is an art in itself, an art of mercy, if you like. You could say we forgive ourselves and for what we are about to receive. May we be truly grateful. We forgive ourselves for blocking ourselves, and we place our hands and we're grateful to begin the process of releasing the blockages. And these blockages in the energy locks, in the pathways, have different textures. And all the safety energy locks have different meanings. So we're given a lot of information to basically help us harmonize. But really, which I've said before, I think, the biggest non-secret secret beyond our fingers, and our toes, is the breath itself, that which we breathe in from the cosmos. At its most subtlest level is light, the most densest level is oxygen. And as we breathe in, this light enters our energy field, goes through energy pathways, 12 of them, and meets these safety energy locks, which modulate or regulate the flow of that energy. And it's this light which feeds ourselves. And without this light, which in most cases is invisible to the naked eye, unless you have a very active pineal gland, which is sometimes called the third eye, you may be able to see the spirals of light as they enter the body, as they move through the pathways, through the safety energy locks. It's not important. And also I want to say it's not something to worry about if you don't feel the energy. Some people don't. But just trust. Place your hands where required. Breathe out. And the more we let go of any kind of concern about what we can and what we cannot do, what we can or cannot feel, the more likely we will be able to experience what we seek. It's a process of letting go, which is in order to grow, which is really perfectly describing what we're going to experience today in the second depth large intestine. Most of you know that the large intestine, i.e. the bowel, is involved in releasing toxins, waste products, waste matter that we no longer need in the body. Well, waste comes at many levels. Thoughts we think, words we speak, and then the physical activity that we carry out. So let's not square our heads about waste and think it's just matter. No. In JIN SHIN JYUTSU and in all other energy modalities that I'm aware of, we're talking at those different levels, and those different levels from thinking, speaking and acting, or soul, mind and body, reach us at subtler and subtler, from the subtle, the soul, all the way down to the dense, the body. But they're all part of that circle, that energy field, that spiral. So that's why there are attitudes that are related to all the different energy function fields. We talk about worry, fear, anger, sadness, and anxiety, or try-tos, related to each of the organ functions. Now, I talked earlier about this idea of as above, so below, activity above the waist affecting activity below the waist, and vice versa. Activity below our waistline can affect activity, our being above the waistline. We can take that outside of the body to the whole cosmos, the whole universe, and talk about how the planetary energies, the art of astrology, talks about how those external forces can influence the body, as above our head can affect us below our head and through our bodies. And those people that have studied this art, there's many variations on astrology. There's Chinese, there's Ayurvedic. But the idea is basically to relate this whole concept of everything is connected. There's a relationship. And some would understand that where the planetary influences exist at our birth relates to all those thoughts, words, and deeds that we've ever had from before. And I'm not about to go into a discussion about, did you live before? Some of you may not think that's at all possible. Some of you may think it's absolutely possible. I personally have had those kinds of experiences, but I'm not here to discuss whether that's valid or not for you. Let's just say that energy exists everywhere, and the possibility that it's eternal, infinite, and undying and unending is there. I think as scientists try and narrow things down to smaller and smaller particles, they never get there, because energy continually subdivides to the point where you just have to surrender and go, well, you know, it's infinite, infinitesimally small, and infinitesimally endless. So play with that idea. I'm not asking you to accept it, but play with that idea and contemplate. Sometimes, you know, I remember many moons ago, I was walking in a part of London, in England, where I'm from, where I found out later my mother was born. But I walked through this particular area in a place called Islington, and I had this very strong feeling of, oh, I think I know this place. I think I've been here before. Deja vu. Which, by the way, for those of you that love Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young, is, I think, a great album. But the point was, I really felt familiar, and yet I couldn't relate to having been there at all in my life at that time. So who knows what we're picking up, but familiarity doesn't have to breed contempt. It can breed curiosity. And when we're curious, we begin to explore. So when Mary Eno Burmeister came to Japan back in the early 40s, maybe prior to the Second World War, she had been a teacher of English language for foreign students. And from what I understand, she was a very curious student and a very fine student, had great potential, great learning, and great curiosity. So perhaps it wouldn't surprise people to know that when she was invited to a party where a Japanese master by Jiro Murai was present, curiosity brought her to this party. And it's where she connected to the master that would teach her the art of JIN SHIN JYUTSU. He asked her, would she like to bring a gift back from Japan to America? And when you consider that this was perhaps just before, but maybe during, I'm not entirely certain of the dates, that Japan and America were at war, this was quite a huge gesture of compassion, of showing mercy, wishing to share something that he knew was very effective. So, without further ado, let's practice this art of compassion, and feeling the connection with compassion, we can place our hands on our hearts. Sometimes we'll go into a practice, I notice it myself, and we might be a little bit rushed. Let's relax, and exhaling helps us relax. And Mary taught with the process of transferring or allowing energy to move through us, it's much more easy if we just let go of what we don't need in order to be filled with what would be necessary or could be necessary for our growth. And large intention energy, as it moves up one side of the body and down the other, is really transporting that which we no longer need, letting it go in order to breathe in via the lungs, which is the sister or brother flow to the second depth, metal or air element in traditional Chinese medicine, will be able to breathe in that which we don't need. Taurus, the bull, astrologically is where we're at right now. This movement of the constellations begins roughly around April 21st and moves through to May 21st, kind of roughly. And you may notice, any of you that were born during that time, extra activity, something going on within you a little bit more, maybe urgently, maybe with your intestines, or maybe as that particular function interacts with all the different other functions in the body, you may notice some sensations, some changes. Second depth, when we're breathing in and letting the energy enhance us and then letting go of what we don't need, is expanding the clarity of our thought processes all the way through our words, right the way through to our activities. And Mary would say the thumb, which can represent the lung, if that's in balance, all the other organ functions, which also are represented by the other fingers, will remain in balance. And it's the first organ function couple that is formed when the liver energy is creating all the other organ functions in the order of creation. So it's important that first breath we take, but equally it's important that first breath we let go. We don't want to get stuck in things that do not serve. And the large intestine, when it's blocked up, or the lungs, when they're not allowed to breathe in and replace the space, if you like, or fill the space, may lead us to feelings of grief or sadness, which may happen anyway as a result of something that's affecting us, something that we feel sad about, we feel some grief about. Yet, you could ask, if we had an unblocked energy field, lung and large intestine, would we feel those emotions so strongly? Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe they would be more harmonized and balanced. Maybe we would naturally feel sadness, but maybe it wouldn't hang around for so long. And I know that some people will argue or discuss that, well, I need to go through my process. Yes, and letting go of things is a process. When we're feeling stuck and we can't move, often we have to do something to move that energy. And maybe that's a longer process or a shorter process, considering how blocked or unblocked we feel or are. So when we do these practices, I like to practice with 36 breaths. And this was something that Mary Burmeister taught based on numerology, for those of you that are new or not familiar. A 3 and a 6 is a 9, and a 9 creates a space where a cycle ends and something new begins. When we do 4 sets of them, in Mary's teaching, we moved from 4 levels, from the subtle to the dense, moving down. And so we use that, or I use that, as a technique to assist in unblocking, moving the energy in order for us to receive or replenish new energy. Sounds as though someone might be unmuted, so I might just have to go in and mute you. Yeah. No. Okay. So it's good. I talked about, let's begin with that connection to the heart, this art of compassion. And of course, the lungs are here in the muscle men too, which is part of the second depth coupling. So let's just sit up straight as you can. If you need some kind of support for your back, then maybe you can place a pillow at your back or under your backside. And then if you can keep your spine as straight as possible, this will allow the circulation from head to toe and toe to head, up and down, or down and up the spine, to occur more congruently. And then relax those shoulders, which incidentally are normally quite tense when our large intestine pathway is a little full. You feel your left and right energies, your left and right shoulder, where safety energy number 11 sits. That's often a little blocked on people, because that's that accumulation where we've not been able to let go, where we've not been able to drop our shoulders and go, whatever. I mean, when you're really feeling very stuck, maybe it's not so easy to go, whatever. But why not, out of curiosity, just do that, just to see if it makes a difference, if you feel a little bit lighter. And, when I teach self-help, I like to have people line up one in front of the other and each hold each other's shoulders and feel the tension, if there is any, and help the person drop them shoulders. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So practice makes progress. So as a very basic, simple exercise before we even begin to connect specifically with the large intestine self-help flows, just doing a shrug of the shoulders may be what you need. Yeah, whatever. Mary had a phrase, it is what it is, and as it is, it is. There's an acronym for infinite truth, infinite self, impersonal self. But it also can help you go, well, it is what it is. And sometimes there isn't anything we need to do or be other than present to what is and allowing it to simply be what it is. So with that kind of attitude, that kind of approach to any kind of JIN SHIN JYUTSU, whether it be on yourself or others, may be helpful to you. Because some of you may have the small intestine perfection attitude, if you like, way of thinking. I think everything I do has got to be absolutely by the book, absolutely right. Mary said this, so it must be right. Mary said a lot of things. And as she developed in her consciousness, some of those things changed. And one very important thing was about how much pressure you place on these safety energy locks. In the early days, in her early books, the 1966 book, it was loads of pressure. And people that received JIN SHIN JYUTSU from Mary would often either see these little wheels in their shoulders or really feel that Mary had been pressing really hard on their energy locks. And she would laughingly say, oh no, that I was very gentle. That was you resisting. I felt those fingers myself. I think the reason I was resisting because it felt really painful. but Mary did have she definitely had strong fingers. But she was helping us to exhale. She was helping us to let go. And this is what we're going to do with these 4 sets of 9 breaths with self-help for the large intestine. Now, there's a couple of fingers that we'll begin with that represent large intestine energy at 2 different levels. There's the index fingers and the ring fingers. This finger represents large intestine, these 2, at the organ function level, and the pathway moves through the webbing between the thumb and the index finger to that side of the index finger. And then at this level, the ring finger, which we call the depth level, you heard me mention the 9th depth, meaning space. These are mansions of consciousness, if you like, or levels of awareness. And we talked about the 2nd depth being the overview of lung and large intestine, that energy field within which lung and large intestine live, move, and have their being. So different relationship, but affects the same depth. So to begin with, I'm going to suggest for people that are brand new, or even all of us, just feel around your shoulders, see how tight they are, and then hold on to your left index. Anything on the left will represent the exhale. Anything on the right will represent the inhale. Just go to the side of the index finger and see which part is more tight or tighter than the others. And you could focus your attention on that segment of the finger, or you could hold the whole finger. Same with the right. Check it out. I'm going to recommend to brand new people to hold your left finger, left index, because that accentuates the exhale. And if you're not used to exhaling first, then it's a good idea to practice. So, and I will do that too. And you can hold the finger like this with your other fingers of your right hand around there, or if you're going to hold the right one that way. And just rest it in the center of your groin there on the pubic bone, which is a center 15, if you like. Fill your heart with joy and laughter. It's a good place to be, isn't it? If we're connecting to joy, laughter, and the other qualities of the heart, which are compassion, forgiveness, gratitude. All right. So we're going to do 9 exhalation inhalations. And as we exhale, that energy moves from the back of the head, safety energy lock 4, through that groin 15 to the 7 and back again. And as it's circulating, of course, it's going to circulate through that finger too. We'll do that 9 times. 1 breath is 1 exhalation and 1 inhalation. So down the front and up the back equals 1. 9 of those. Let's close our eyes. Drop our shoulders. Connect your feet strongly, if you can, to the ground. Feel the toes connecting to the earth beneath. We're moving the energy from head to toe, and actually it's from skin to bone. And then from toe back to head. But it's important, we can't manifest any of our thoughts and words if we're not earthed, if we're not grounded. So let us ground ourselves, feel that connection. Shrug them shoulders and exhale. Let the energy go. And it spirals down the front of the body in a positive direction. And then as we inhale, it also moves in a positive direction. Back up from feet to head. Here we go, 9 times. And incidentally, there's no specific way of breathing, like in through the nose, out through the mouth, whatever is comfortable for you. And you're letting go of what you no longer need. You're allowing the large intestine to function at all its levels of letting go. And then when you've let go, on the inhale, you're building something new, refreshing through the allowance of cosmic purified energy entering 360 degrees into your feet and up the back. As we're letting go or releasing, you may notice in different parts of the body some sensations. That's because these energy pathways go through the body and will affect different areas through which they travel through. You may feel your nose is a bit stuffy. Large intestine has a safety energy lock either side of the nose. You may feel it in the large intestine area in your body. You may feel it on the outer side of your leg. Just observe. Some of you may be familiar with the phrase or sentence, let go and let God. Well, in JIN SHIN JYUTSU, obviously as you let go, you inhale from G through letter O through D, through those safety energy locks. Is there a relationship with the generator, operator, and destroyer of the universe too? Maybe. Be curious. And as you're letting go on the exhale, Shoulders begin to melt. It's almost as if they sink into your feet. And that's quite a delicious feeling, quite an accomplishment. You really know you're letting go then. And when you reach that ninth exhalation, inhalation, just slip into the neutral zone and observe how you're feeling, maybe where you're feeling any sensations in the body. You will know when energy is moving. You will feel some kind of sensation. And maybe you're feeling it in that index finger. It'll be like a pulse that you would feel in the radial artery. However, if you don't feel, don't get sad about it. Don't worry. This means the energy is moving through still, working through some blockage. And it will eventually speak to you in the form of pulse. So the second set of 9 exhalations, inhalations is going to be holding the ring finger, either left or right. Again, you can experiment to the sides and decide which side. The different segments relate to those subdivisions: soul, mind and body, bust line, waistline, hip line. You may feel no tension. Great. So you just rejuvenate. So when you've chosen which ring finger you're going to hold, 9 exhalation, inhalations. Here we go. And if some feelings of sadness or grief start emerging as you're connecting to this energy field, just let it happen. There's a line from a song: many a tear has to fall, but it's all in the game. It's cleansing. the more we can release and allow our emotions to react or respond in that cleansing, harmonizing way, the more authentic we can be, because our channels are clearer, and that light I mentioned earlier can travel through more congruently, feeding, uplifting, regenerating, rejuvenating. Be compassionate with yourself. Show yourself as much mercy as you would like others to show to you. I remember the first time I saw a number plate that said, or a car registration plate, or a sign on a window that said, "It's all good." And my mind would go, really? I'm not sure about that. But in an ultimate sense, it is all good, because the breath is allowing us to harmonize, letting go, and bringing in the new. We hold on too long, we stagnate, and that's when pain and discomfort can come. Is it always easy? No. However, it is doable. We just have to have the intention to complete the circle, however long it may take. So that said, 36 breaths is not meant to be a barrier. You can go beyond 36 breaths. The number 9 resonates with that end of a cycle. So you might want to do multiples, more multiples of 9, 108, whatever. Just don't allow your mind to go, well, I did 36 breaths and nothing happened. It did, but you just might not have been aware of it. Doesn't it feel good to just drop all that stuff, the human stuff that really doesn't serve? I mean, if we're going to inhale cosmic purified energy, think about that, cosmic, and we're getting stuck in human stuff. So the fingers are our friends. They can assist us letting go and inhaling the new purified energy so that we can grow and expand. Our mind can clear. We can see things a lot clearer, understand why things may have happened, and let them go. Some people say that they don't remember too well as time goes on, or they forget a lot. Have you ever wondered whether that could be because we've allowed our minds to be filled with so much without letting a lot of it go, that it jams up all those neurons, all those synapses? And yeah, the brain is having a job making the connections to what we want to hear or what we want to remember, because we're holding on to stuff that's blocking you. So next time you have a memory issue, you might experiment with either large intestine, index, or ring, lung, large intestine, and see if that gives your mind a little bit of a break. Maybe you remember it, whatever it was. And as you come to the 9th exhalation, inhalation, just relax and observe. While we're on the subject of memory, let's talk about the field that we live and move have our being in. Memories can be of many kinds. You can facilitate the harmonization of the past by being present to what is. And how do we become present to what is? We let go of the past and we don't think about the future in an obsessive way. We don't overplan, we don't overthink. It can feel scary, can feel risky, because you're not used to it, perhaps. Practice makes progress. So now we're going to do the 3rd set of 9 exhalation inhalations. And this time we're going to hold left or right index finger, and we're going to do the first step or the large intestine flow. Those of you that know it from book 2, text 2, Mary Burmeister's practitioner book. You're going to hold, I'm going to do the left. You're going to put the left hand over the right shoulder, and the right hand's going to hold the left index. Or if you're going to do the right flow, you're going to the right hand over the left shoulder, left safety energy up 11, and hold the right index finger. You may just want to check to see how those shoulders are before you decide. And holding the index with the shoulder, safety energy lock 11, breathe out. And naturally receive the breath. We don't take a breath. 8 more times. Remember to feel that connection from head to toe. Feel the ground beneath. Sometimes when we do a lot of breath work, we can feel a little lightheaded if we're not strongly connected to the ground. So remember that. Squeeze your toes if you have to. And as you come to the 9th exhalation, inhalation, just observe. Maybe you're feeling pulses, maybe on the shoulders, maybe in the index finger, or maybe not. No worries. Keep breathing out. And now the last set of, the last set that we're going to do here today is the last step of the large intestine flow. And if you're using the left flow, the last step, you take your right hand away from the index finger and you place it on your left 22 under the shoulder girdle, or vice versa, if you are holding the left shoulder. Under the 22 under the shoulder girdle, safety interlock 22, 144,000 special function energy. You're almost but not quite hugging yourself here. Begin 9 exhalation, inhalations. Very powerful hold, this last step. Notice where your fingers are. Hip line and bust line segmentation. Safety energy lock 11 there, connecting to large intestine, small intestine, gallbladder, umbilicus, and then the left or right hand on the 22, which is actually lung 1 in traditional Chinese medicine. So you're connecting both elements, both parts of the metal element at the organ function level, lung and large intestine. How beautiful is that? So you're letting go and you're receiving with this whole in unison. And sooner or later, we may become bathed in a sea of tranquility. It's been worth the journey, hasn't it? Again, a reminder that if you don't feel any of these things I've described, that's okay too. You're on your unique journey. So as you come to the 9th exhalation, inhalation, again, just observe, or you might want to slip into giving yourself a complete hug there with both thumbs under the shoulder girdle and the fingers on the edge of the shoulder blade, whichever feels comfortable, or you may be where you were. And just observe, how do you feel? And where do you feel? Don't concern yourself too much with the why. The mind gets curiouser and curiouser. When you do this kind of practice, it's about surrendering the whys and just observing what you feel and where you feel. Just observing. And it gives you some clues to where the energy may need extra support. And like I said, you can always do more than 36 breaths. Okay, good. So we're coming right up to the hour, my word. Hopefully, you all feel a lot looser. Those shoulders aren't so up by your ears.
Okay. Terry, I have a question. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
Rita.
Rita. Okay, Rita, yeah, fire away.
Yeah. No, it's when you choose to make one of the flows and you should choose to be shorter. When do you choose the first and second step or the first and last step? Should I try and see what make more sense for me, or there is a rule for that?
No rule. You're exactly right. Experiment if you want to do. I'm choosing the first and last because of the premise of the energy pushing from the first step and being pulled by the last step. It's like opposite ends of a magnet. But first step, second step, experiment. Be curious and see the effect. Maybe do the same side flow with the first two steps and then the other side flow with the first and the last. Just see the differences, if there are any, and what feels right for you. At the end of the day, it's what feels right for you. Do you feel the energy flowing much more congruently when you do the first two or the first and the last? I'll tell you this, when I'm working on a client and time is of the essence, I will often only do first and last step or first two steps. So, you know, experiment. Does that help?
Yes.
Yeah, experiment.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're your own testimony. Yeah, Nancy, that's right. The group energy always does feel much stronger. Yeah. Large intestine will open up the nose. That's for sure, David. Yeah, Diana, yeah, unstuck. He's trying to declutter. Yeah. Yeah, often we don't want to let go of a lot of stuff, so we accumulate and it becomes clutter, right? I'm good at that myself. If people visit me, they say, do you ever listen to all your CDs? I mean, or your DVDs? Answer, no. But coming from a background of a graphic designer, I didn't always buy the CD for the music. Mostly I did, but sometimes the jacket design was really attractive to me. And you can't just buy the jacket. Well, I couldn't. I don't know where you can just buy CD jackets. So I would buy it for artistic reasons, and then occasionally I'd get surprised that the music was worth listening to too. I've done that in the past. But letting go. Yeah, it's not always easy because we have attachments to things. We have memories. Oh yeah, that was when. oh, I don't want to let go of that memory. And yet, if it was hidden from you, you couldn't see it, you'd have to go through a process eventually of letting go. And those of you that have lost a key or something and then suddenly it's turned up, sometimes you've had to go through, and that process is actually quietening the mind eventually. And you just, I can't find it. Okay, that's it. That's it. And very often the very thing that you were concerned about turns out, oh, there it is. After you finally let go of all the chatter. So with that, I'm going to let go of all my chatter. And thank you very much again for everyone.